Hello, welcome to the most exclusive CHRO club, where we bring to you unfiltered, candid, yet insightful conversations with top CHROs of India. Today, my guest of honor is Richard Lobo, CPO of Tech Mahindra. Hello, Richard.
Hi, Puja. Thank you for
Welcome.
having me on the show.
Yeah. So, Richard, let me start by asking you that, recently you've got into the role of a CPO from an HR head. What does that entail, this journey between being an HR head to a CPO?
I would look at it as a continuum. You don't know when one ends and the other begins because primarily uh, an HR head or a CPO has two focus areas, right? One is how does people make difference to the business. Secondly, how you make a difference to the people you are responsible for. Now, whether you're looking at a smaller group of people as an HR head or a larger group of people as a CPO, or even the context of a company, as a CPO, you tend to take more decisions which involve business issues versus as HR head, you probably looked at more focus on people. So I think it's a continuum. It's not, I can put it as one ends and the other begins. But you do feel that there is a larger sense of responsibility as decisions impact people in many ways. They also impact business. So I think looking at both these parameters in a very balanced view is, I think, what makes a difference.
Interesting. Given that you spent 22 years with a tech giant and you've joined a tech company now, so how do you kind of decide what process and policies to continue, which ones to adapt, which ones you would want to think afresh and bring in new, aspects to it?
I would look at it a little broader way. And I would look at the three main changes which we are seeing in the world today. And many of the decisions you take are related to that. One is the speed at which technology is changing and impacting all our lives, HR included. The second is shift in business models. You have so many different kinds of companies, so many different kind of businesses coming in at a very rapid pace. And third, I think the world around us is changing. There are geopolitical issues, there are cultural issues, there are various dimensions. In that context, I think we are at a great time in the sense the whole HR profession has to react very rapidly. So I think it is not only looking at what made you successful till now, it is looking at given these three changes, which are going to have a fundamental impact on the way we deal with humans. I think we have to make many of the policies which are or processes which are more current and make sense rather than just say, okay, this worked well in the past and we should continue this, or bringing in something new just because you heard about it or read about it. In the sense, how does this make how does this make sense to your business in the long term perspective is what I think the focus is.
Yeah, very relevant. And today more than ever, the geopolitical situation is challenging the business world. Like, we've seen the stock market plummet so much. So does it have impact in your business so as to?
The whole what we are seeing, and at least what observation from recent times is, right since the time the pandemic hit the world to today, we've had so many shifts which we have necessitated a rapid change. When the pandemic happened, most of us had to suddenly shift to a remote model, which we had no clue whether it would work or not. You have travel situations happening. Suddenly, you can't go to certain countries. Suddenly, you will have changes in immigration policies. You will have situations where one of your biggest clients would face certain situations which you can't handle. So, what it has taught us, or at least what it has taught me over the last few years, is that you cannot anticipate change. The whole model has to shift as to how quickly can you react and make your business work while change happens around you. And I think much of what will hold us in good stead going forward, not only the HR profession but everybody else, is that how quickly can you as an organization react to change and take your people along. And I think that has been the biggest learning more than anything else.
And talking about business, the motto that Tech Mahindra stands for is making the customers scale at speed. So, as a people's leader, how are you making sure that the EX that you give your people is equivalent to the CX?
That I think is a very important question, and I'm glad you asked it because companies over the period of time have invested a lot in CX. or customer experience. And that is necessitated because the competitive environment is such. The employee experience to me has been kind of a lag for obvious reasons, because you always tend to spend first in areas which are outward and customer focused. The best of the companies have to invest in both. And while we have taken and embraced this challenge of scaling at speed, it also holds good that you cannot scale at speed unless you do the same thing inside. So not only the human part, I think the every process which we as a company have needs to scale at speed. So some of our focus has been whether it's our IT systems, whether it's our people processes, whether it is our quality systems, whether it's our learning process, everything has to scale at speed to deliver the CX which we have talked about. And EX is a very important part of it. So are we getting the best talent? Are they skilling and learning fast enough? Are they being deployed fast enough? It's an evolving journey. I can't say that it is done today or we are finished, because whatever said and done, there'll be new challenges. So I think the EX is a constant challenge. And if you don't do it, somebody else will take your people, and you will lose the edge which you need to deliver to your clients. So that's been the focus. So I think over the next, it's a 3-year journey, just like we have taken a 3-year journey on the whole company. We are also going to take a 3-year view on how we can scale our talent processes to enable us to deliver at speed.
Yeah, and I can clearly see this has given you results, because as I understand, Tech Mahindra has a retention of 90%. 70% plus positions are filled internally. So what flows in the backbone of your retention and career mobility processes?
I would give credit to both our people as well as managers, rather than what we as HR or the people function does. I think people have enjoyed the work they do, and I think the managers have done a good job in working with their teams. Having said that, I don't think anything is done, right? This is an evolving process, and you always have to be one step ahead. So I think let's look at things which we have done. One is, I think we have revamped the whole learning and skilling journey. And we have learned over a period of time that if you invest in skilling and building on talent, people generally want to stay with you longer because they want to build on the learning opportunities they get. The second is how engaged they are. And I think at Tech Mahindra, more than anything else, we are focused on doing well on engagement. And we have genuinely treated people and teams as part of the larger focus. So whether how you reward people, how you engage with them, everything has been very important. And they do understand that they work with a good set of colleagues and make friends at the workplace. The third, I think we have to look at what value are they adding to both themselves and their family, whether it's in terms of financial rewards or in terms of the learning which they get and which they can deploy in the workplace. How do they keep ahead of the curve? I think that's what we are focused on. And lastly, I think creating an environment of where wellness is important, where the focus on the individual, where on their health. And I think Tech Mahindra was one of the companies which pioneered this. They did good work in the wellness space, and they continue to do that. And I think more than when you go through the stresses and strains of today's work environment and the larger life as such, this becomes more important than many other things we do. A combined view is what I think makes the difference. And as new people come into the workplace, your victories are that much, right? You can't be satisfied with what you did yesterday. You always have to look at tomorrow's game.
So, since you're the CPO, so in your job, you have to kind of, align with multiple stakeholders within the HR. Plus, you also have to align with function heads, business heads, and so on and so forth. So how do you kind of balance all that? What does your, synergies with other departments and within the same departments look like?
That's a good question. So let's start with any company, right? What you do for your customers in terms of delivering value comes first. So you understand that, and as a CPO or as HR, you need to understand what makes sense for your customers. Once you do that, then you build your internal mechanism as to figuring out what makes sense for your employees to deliver that to your customers. So I said in the beginning of the interview, it's a balance of the business needs versus what the employee expectations are, and how you can bring both together to make sense for your business. So a lot of my time or effort goes in understanding customers, what they are looking at from our people, and how we can improve their experience with the teams they work versus some other teams, and then translating it to employees and explaining to them how their work matters, because when you understand the purpose of what you do, you too tend to deliver better. A close interaction, what we've tried to do is a close interaction and connect between customers as well as employees, so that you don't see that this is Tech Mahindra and that company, both are in this together to solve a purpose. And that is what has, I think, made a difference. So I think a balance of both approaches is really what works. Sometimes you do tend to spend more time on people, sometimes you do tend spend more time on business, but that, I think, on a longer period balances itself out.
Interesting. Today, sustainability hogs the limelight in most board meetings, investor meetings. So, what is the HR's role in the sustainability agenda? And I also read recently that Tech Mahindra is one of the most sustainable companies. I mean, it's one of the media houses is kind of rewarded as one of the most sustainable companies. So, what's the role of HR?
So as a company, we pride ourselves on many of our sustainability practices. But having said that, that is something which is a benchmark. But more importantly, I think as the world changes and you see around you, everything that we inhabit is under stress and strain. So I think every responsible corporate or every responsible corporation needs to focus on whatever they do, whatever practices they do are sustainable for the long term. Now, a tech company, of course, has advantages in the sense that we, of course, do not have facilities or situations where you have to deal with some of the very physical manifestations which some other companies deal with. But you do have many things. So, in the sense of talent development, are you doing enough to help out the colleges or the pools where you take people from? Your offices, are they really green spaces? Because we do end up using a lot of energy. But let's leave out all this because these are all known things. But I think for us, taking the journey to the individual employee level has been most important. That we educate each employee on the impact they have on the larger sustainability goals and seeing it as a partnership. Like, for example, we have this group in Pune who on the weekend spends time in greening a hill around the city. So some of these things, I think, when you touch these spaces, make much more impact than some of these things which we talk about, which we will anyway do as a corporation. But I think involving people and getting them involved in the larger sustainability goal has been the key to our success.
There is so much hype around using AI and automation. And when I speak to some of the leaders, they tell us that, we are digitalizing, but we are not transforming. The process is very slow and there is still a lot of work in progress. More so is said about AI and analytics and, making people decisions using data, but yet we are not there. What are your thoughts and where are you at Tech Mahindra?
Let's make it very simple. AI is a technology, it's there. Now, how we use it is up to us. So I think we have to focus on three areas when any new technology comes. And let's take the example of AI. The first is, I think, the human at work. How will a technology make an impact in the sense, will the technology make their work life better? So the focus on the human at work. The second is, I think, using data and analytics with intelligence. Every company is rich with data, but poor on analytics. Even if you don't use AI, the normal analysis will tell you various things. Are people working longer? Are they working better? So a usage of data which you already have by using human intelligence. And third is doing changes in a micro way, which impacts a lot of people. So you don't necessarily have to change your whole company, but wherever you think you can bring in change, you bring in change which will impact that group of people. So if you feel that there are a particular group of people, you have got insights that they can do something better. Instead of working 25 hours, they could probably work less. You deploy it there. Don't worry about the larger piece. So I think focusing on the human at work, using data and analytics intelligently, and then making changes where it makes an impact is how we should navigate this new technology, which we are all very lucky to have. As I think we can call ourselves lucky to be at a time and place in history where AI has entered our life and our work. We have an opportunity to be pioneers and we should use it well.
So does it bother you that with data also comes a responsibility to manage the data and the privacy, and even the government is working a lot now, and anytime soon DPTP Act and all will also get into full force.
None of us want our data or our information to just be widely used, but I think we can create enough spaces to experiment. And to me, these are spaces to experiment with guardrails so that it doesn't go beyond or doesn't go rogue. With every technology, the regulations follow. We cannot wait for regulations and those things to happen for us to experiment. So we should create spaces where experimentation is possible, and it doesn't go out of those experimental spaces. Otherwise, nothing will evolve. So we should let it happen. But I don't think we can wait. We have to allow for experimentation to happen with the sensitivity that sometimes when things go wrong, we will have enough checks and balances to control it. Just to put it very in an odd way, is that fire was invented way before the fire extinguisher was. So,
yes. So Richard, you've had a career spanning almost 3 decades, and as a HR professional, there must have been like highs and lows. Give me one example where it had been like something that you would have lost your sleep over, a phase of time, and something that helps you to thrive in your career, as HR professional. That aspect of your work kind of gives you that high, and you're so happy being a HR professional.
What gives me a high is probably, I'll talk about that first, is that I've been fortunate and lucky to see many people who at the start of their careers. And what gives me an immense sense of satisfaction is that you meet them 10 years, 15 years, 20 years later when they have grown in their profession, and they suddenly reach out to you at an airport or at some situation and say, okay, I first met you when I joined at the start of my career. And that gives you an immense sense of satisfaction that whoever you met many, many years ago, and you played a very, very small part. I don't claim that I did anything for them, but they do remember you, and it gives you a lot of pride that they are now there at the forefront and leaders of the industry. What I lose sleep on is many times not everybody succeeds, right? And many times, sometimes people fail because they take wrong decisions. And that brings a sense of sadness that this story could have been better if somebody had followed a different path, and that there are many such stories where you do feel sad when things don't really work out, because finally I think it's a collection of humans. A workplace is a collection of humans. Sometimes things work out, sometimes they don't, but when they don't, you always think that if this person could have done things differently, would it have made a difference to them and their families?
Since there will be many people watching this talk show, and some of them are from HR, also HR space, so what would be that one advice that you would like to give professionals starting the HR careers, or who could be possibly in the midstream?
I have very carefully over those period of time refrained from giving people advice, because that's not necessarily something which I think I should do. But I leave people with a thought, and the thought is that over the period of time, we cannot always know where our decisions take us. But as long as our intent is right, we apply the full force of our knowledge and our skill, we usually end up with the right place. So the thought I want to leave is that whoever has done anything with their career or their life has not been afraid to take the step forward. It is like you are a small stream, you become part of a river and then probably become part of the ocean. But if you hesitate, you cannot do it. But even if you hesitate, remember there's no going back. So look forward. I think there is great things ahead of us. So that is the message I always give people. Don't be scared to take decisions. Go ahead, and you'll make a difference to yourself and to many others.
I think that's a beautiful piece of advice. And Richard, if there is one word I would like to use for you, it would be modest. I have met so many CHROs, but I have yet to come across with somebody who's so modest.
You are very kind.
No, because I've been waiting so patiently that you would speak about your book, because recently you've launched a book, and not too many CHROs do launch books, but you've written a book called Human at Work. And And tell us more about the book, how the idea came, what is the purpose of the book, and what is the overarching theme.
I used to write, and you are one of the people who used to suffer from some of my writings. So the idea came from a member of my team who said, "Why don't you collect all your writings together?" But I thought that was a bad idea because who wants to redo what you've already written? So I thought about it and said, maybe I get asked in many of the interactions I do with people on some of the questions. I thought I will answer some of those questions as to how do you plan your career, how do you do things for the long term, how do you keep yourself healthy, how do you focus on building careers for the long term, etc., in terms of simple anecdotes and stories. And that's the whole how the idea of this book came about. It's largely written to young professionals who are navigating today's world of work and their managers. Some of the ideas might be useful, some of them probably may not, but that's the whole idea. As to I thought if I were to answer many questions which people have in their minds and which I have answered in discrete situations, would it make sense? So that's the whole idea. And the human is how, as technology evolves, as our workplaces become bigger and complex, you still need human principles to work. So the human is actually an adjective in the book as to how you bring in the whole humanness, whether you're a manager or an employee or a colleague, and how to make our workplaces a little more livable, a little more breathable, a little more fun to be at.
Oh. No, it sounds wonderful. I can't wait to get my copy. So anything that I've missed and you would like to add, Richard?
You've been very kind. I think we covered a wide spectrum. But the only thing I would like to add in close is that the people profession or the people business is interesting and challenging. And at more than at any point in time, I think in the history of work, it has become more evolved, more important for business to succeed, as many more businesses find that the people part of their business becomes very strong and important. And I think it's very challenging, and I'm privileged to be part of that. And it's been great talking to you. So thank you for all the nice questions.
Thank you, Richard. I know you've impacted many lives positively, and with this, you will be impacting many, many more lives. And I'm hoping that the book reaches all the right users of the book and they benefit from it. Thank you so much for joining the CHRO Club. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Puja. Thank you so much.